Good afternoon and welcome to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. And as you may have noticed, it's a pretty big day here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea, and that's why we are joined by one of the biggest L's walking, Big L luminary, Browns partner J.W. Johnson. To kick off the show, J.W. earlier today, Todd Monkin was introduced as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Talk about kind of that process and how that led you guys to Todd and how excited you are to have him here.
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Obviously,
thank you.
Wish Bo was here and wish him the best. Hope he's feeling
he's
better.
Convalescing
I'm sure he's
right
listening,
now.
and so hopefully he's feeling better. Exciting day. We're really happy for Todd and his family. And Todd's journey in coaching has, as he said, started with the Purple Pounders, I think it was.
Yes, 5 years old.
And so to hear that and see him and how emotional he got today about it is pretty special for anybody. We're just happy to have him here. I think he's going to bring a great level of intensity. He's got an offensive mind that we were very intrigued with from the very beginning, and we knew we had to kind of go to that lean as far as from an offensive perspective. Listen, I think he's going to put together a great staff. We're still working through a lot of things there on both sides of the ball, but high confidence in Todd and what he's going to be able to do in the building now in the offseason. Then once we get on the grass in the season, we're really excited about it. Now, proof's in the pudding, but for now, we're fired up, and I know he's just as fired up, and hopefully our fan base is fired up. But again, we got to start getting results, and we're in the results business.
When you go through an interview process like this and you get to know somebody, and obviously we knew him from his time here in 2019 as the offensive coordinator, but when you see that passion, and I got a chance to interview him, and I'm sure we're going to be releasing that shortly, but this is all he's wanted his whole life, and just shy of his 60th birthday, which I believe is tomorrow, it comes true. And he got choked up in the press conference. He got choked up when I was talking to him about it. But when you have somebody who just, he loves football. This is a football coach. That's what he feels like he was put on this planet to do. And you see that passion, that dedication. How does that kind of affect you on the other side of that interview, Zoom, or when you're in person with him?
Yeah, listen, we went through a pretty extensive process. I think Jimmy touched on it today. I've talked to some other people about it, and, it's a big deal. And I think when people are like, oh, you had him do this, you had him do that. Well, listen, when you're having somebody and you're spending maybe 10 hours, over a period of time, and you're going to ask them to say, hey, you're going to run a $8 billion organization, from a football perspective, and that drives a lot what we're doing. We want to make sure we're putting them through all the tests and things to make sure, like, how smart is the person? What's some things that we need to be aware of as a person? The quote-unquote essays, which is more like a homework question, say, walk us through what it looks like if you were going to develop Shador or so-and-so, or how do you think about this? It just drives to conversation. Sure. And so when we're also just limited on time when it comes to those guys. So we're trying to beat the process a little bit by getting ahead of that. So I think when it came to Todd and everybody who we had, a lot of great internal candidates, external candidates. The amount of stuff you learn from an interview process, head coach, coordinator, whatever it may be, there's a lot of things you take and say, hey, are we doing this, or do we need to be thinking about doing that, or so on and so forth. So that's number one as far as the process goes. And then again, I think with Todd, it's just high love for football. He's a high character person. You saw it today. There's no nonsense. He's not gonna BS you. And I think he said, like, every day we're going to live as 4th and 1, and I think that's just a mindset, a mentality that you have to have, right? And I think that'll translate to our guys. Last year, unfortunately, we had a lot of games that we just let it get away from us, and we had a young team, and sometimes that happens, and mistakes happen. It's just like any team; it'll happen to you. So, I think us having that young team and the new mindset of every day is 4th and 1, you're coming in here having a winning mindset. I think he's going to drive that attention to the guys, and hopefully it translates.
We've hung around each other enough that the funny thing is I was just going to ask you about 4th and 1, and you went right there before I even had to do it. But I love when he said that every day is 4th and 1 because, and he even talked about the change in the NFL from when he was an OC in Tampa Bay, and part of it is going forward on 4th down. You can't celebrate as a defense. Put the fist up. It's 4th and 2. No, we're going to go for it. But it's that pressure. It's that. Those are the things that separate winning and losing in the most binary business on planet Earth, which is the National Football League, with everything that goes into one game that is played once a week to have those outcomes. I love that mentality. Was that something, did that come up in the interview? Is that something that you guys
for
heard?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
That's cool.
that was definitely not just
And
a
you're
press
like, oh,
conference
okay.
thing. So
Yeah,
we've
he
heard,
said it to me in my interview.
We've
too,
heard
yeah.
that before, and I think, that's just a mindset that he lives with day in and day out. And he's probably lived with it for a long time. So, no, I just think, like I said, the level of detail, the level of intensity, and I think the creativeness that he's going to have with the offense. I mean, it's players over plays.
Yep.
Right? Now, he's going to draw up some great plays,
Sure.
okay? But I think it's players over plays, and how is he going to maximize the guys we have on the roster now? Who do we add to the roster, in February, or excuse me, in March, and then in April? All those things will tell, and I think he'll do a great job maximizing the talent that we have, and that's from every position, whether that's quarterback, receiver, O-line. Heck, I think hopefully he can keep connecting. Miles told us at the end of the year, he's like, hey, I'm going to break the sack record again. So, I think Todd will continue to motivate him to even push him as well.
A lot of draft picks, 2 in the first round, as we know, for the first time in a very, very long time. That's exciting. An ability to be flexible with the cap, as Andrew Berry talked about. But when you bring in a guy like Todd, who has been successful with so many different style offenses, so many different style players, and you guys kind of get to go shopping a little bit. This is going to be an opportunity for the Cleveland Browns to really kind of add talent. I mean, you could roll out a defense right now, week 1, of guys that are here. But this is an opportunity to add talent. I'm sure from your level, that's exciting. And obviously how Todd and AB and when Todd gets his whole staff put together, how they're going to all integrate to find those right guys. This is an exciting time, I think, to see how this offense is going to be added to, augmented, and then how it's going to be developed and perform.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, 10 picks in this year's draft. And, obviously, I think now we've heard the cap may go up exponentially. So that also helps not us, but every other team.
Sure.
So, I think his knowledge on receiver and quarterback and everything from that perspective, we're going to dive into that because we know what we need. There are some positions of need, and we want to be explosive. And we have some great guys on the roster already
Sure.
that are great players from receivers. But if we can add to that room and just make it that much better, we're going to do it. The other thing is I'll say, I also think we have a great defense, but I don't want us to neglect that. So if we have an opportunity and there's a really good player that we think can help us on defense, by all means, and Andrew and we've all talked about this, is let's go get that guy. We know we got to fix the offense, but let's keep building on the things that we've had success on.
Right.
So we're not going to neglect the defense either.
That's right. If you're staying still, you're stagnant. So
Right.
we're going to obviously continue to improve there. You mentioned it kind of at the top, but last year was difficult. I think last year was difficult for everybody inside this building.
Last couple of years have been difficult.
Difficult for everybody who's a fan of this organization. And today feels like a dawn of a new day, right? You introduce a head coach there. It's clear from an attitude standpoint, and he talked about accountability. He's going to try to squash anything that gets in the way of winning football and try to do it not confrontationally, but eliminate those things. What is kind of your message to the fans? Because the reality is we can't see anything or feel it right until September, but we know that change is happening and that a lot is going to go on in these now we're day 30 of those 120 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think, you always hear people say, oh, did he win the press conference? Well, we don't want anybody to win a press conference.
Win games.
Okay. And, you see what happened with Liam Cohen last year and the Duval kind of comment. Everyone's like, oh, my God, this guy's going to be terrible. And he did a great job turning it around. Same thing, I think Nick Sirianni had a really bad press conference to turn around. So the press conference means nothing. Todd did a great job with that. That's who he is. He's natural, and he's going to be himself. I mean, look, from a fan base perspective, we hate losing. I've said that on this show in here leading up to week 1. If anybody has an issue with us and don't think we're going to be competitive and we care about winning, come on down. Let's talk.
Yeah.
I mean, winning to us is everything. I know what that means to our fan base. It's no fun when we lose. I mean, when you're in the locker room, even though it was the last game of the year and it didn't matter, and seeing guys and how exuberant they were and dancing around and having fun, knowing crap, the season's over, but they're like, yeah, we just won a football game. We won in a great fashion. It means so much to them, and I know what it means to our fan base. And so it's our job as stewards of this organization day in and day out to figure out how we're going to produce a winner, and we know that's paramount because losing is not an option anymore, and we've had enough of it. We think the guy that we have in the building now is going to lead us in the right direction, and we're going to give as much support as we can here in the building. We hope our fan base gives him just as much support outside the building and, when training camp starts in September, et cetera. So we're excited to get going. We got a lot of work to do, but let's go.
Let's go. JW, always a pleasure to
Yeah.
have you in here. Big day. Let's go is absolutely right. Thanks so much for the time.
Appreciate it.
All right. JW Johnson with us here, kicking off the show. It's when you know it's a big day here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. We'll be back, and we're going to hear the introductory press conference of Browns' new head coach, Todd Monkin, when we return on Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. App, download today and get $50 in bonus bets when you place your first wager of $10 or more. Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of the Cleveland Browns. Let's head to the podium now, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here is the introductory press conference of new Browns head coach Todd Monkin.
Everyone, really exciting day. I am thrilled to announce Todd Monkin as our new head coach. And before inviting Todd up to speak, I actually wanted to give a little bit of context and background of what led us to this decision. Coming out of 2025, the first thing we wanted to do is say, okay, where are we from a team standpoint? Where are we from a roster standpoint? And we looked at it and we said, hey, we're coming out of 2025. We have the 8th youngest defense in terms of experience, a group that's very complete at all 3 levels and that we feel really good about. On the offensive side of the ball, we looked and we felt like we had a number of young, pillar cornerstone pieces, but we envision a world where that side of the ball is going to have pretty significant turnover over the next several months. And then from a resource standpoint, we looked at the team and said we're flush with, draft resources entering this offseason, as well as the appropriate amount of flexibility from a financial perspective. So as we looked at everything and we thought about what we needed from, our head coach, particularly in this phase, the first thing we actually looked at is we wanted someone who could lead, develop, and grow a young team. Because quite frankly, we're probably going to be, if not the youngest, one of the youngest teams in football in 2026. The second thing that we wanted, certainly in the short term, was a coach, didn't matter the background, that had a very strong and adaptable offensive plan, given the amount of turnover we're going to have on that side of the ball, both in terms of personnel, scheme, you name it. In addition to that very specific problem, we were looking at individuals that had 4 key attributes. The first is something that we categorize as global intelligence. So that's not just cognitive ability or IQ, that's EQ and football acumen as well. The second is something that we term CEO leadership. So that's someone who has the ability to function at what we would call 30,000 feet, as well as the tactical level at ground level. The third, we wanted someone who had a demonstrated track record of innovation where they've been. And then the fourth, we wanted someone who had the characteristics of collaboration, given the head coaching position touches so many different areas in football operations in the modern day game. So what we did to assess, all of those characteristics with many of the fine coaches we met with, we looked at their performance track record, where they've been throughout all their career, how their units have done. We did a number of reference calls throughout people who had been in direct working relationship with the candidates throughout all stops of their career. We did testing, we did work samples, and we also did the interview. And we combined all of that information to make a good decision about who would serve us best, who would serve the organization best with the problem that we're trying to attack with where our team is currently. And when we did that, Todd stood head and shoulders above the rest. Todd's really, really, really unique. If you look at his history, his career history, this is a coach who has had high-level, innovative, adaptable offenses at both the pro and college level. Doesn't matter the personnel, didn't matter the quarterbacks, didn't matter what he inherited. He always found a way to have, high-level and productive units. It became very apparent in everybody that we talked to about Todd how strong he was working and developing with young players. I think that's one of the beauties of Todd's experience is he does have pro and college experience as a coach, and that transfers in terms of how he leads and grows young players. The third, the mentors that he's worked for, most recently Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh. Arguably the best in the business in pro and college, and the lessons that Todd has learned and applied from those coaches has been outstanding. And then the last thing is he understands the job. I mean, the work that he did at Southern Miss, inheriting a program at its historical nadir, turning it around with few resources, shows he has the leadership, the gumption, and the resourcefulness to do this job at any level. So for us, we felt like he fit us like a glove. And we are so excited to have him and his family in Cleveland. I guess I should say back to Cleveland, Todd. But we're really stoked to have him. And so without further ado, Todd Monkin.
Wow. Man, am I excited to to lead this flagship, franchise, NFL franchise. I mean, it's been a long time coming. Really has been a long journey. And there's a lot of people as we get down the road here that I'm going to have to thank, but I'm jacked. I mean, I'm excited to be with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's hard to even put into words. First off, I want to thank Dee and Jimmy, Whitney and JW for entrusting me in this opportunity to help build a winning team with the NFL's most passionate and dedicated fan base, including the Dog Pound. Secondly, I want to thank Andrew. Pointed that way, but you're right there. I want to thank Andrew Berry. Crazy enough, in 2019, when I interviewed here, my contact was Andrew, and actually was the first gentleman that I met with when I came in the building. And I could tell right away that our alignment and his clear vision for how you build a roster and how you develop players, we were aligned. And I look forward to being connected at the hip and building this roster to a championship level, consistent championship level. He mentioned the last few years, getting an opportunity to work with Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh, two of the elites in the game. When you talk about getting a doctorate in coaching, wow. I owe a lot to them. They entrusted me to elevate the offenses at both places, which is a credit to the staff we had and the players we had, because you can't do it alone. You absolutely cannot do this alone. It takes an army, and I owe a lot of gratitude to them. The one thing I learned being with both of them, I always thought I understood what it meant to confront anything that gets in the way of winning football. And what's interesting is they get to the same point, they just do it completely differently. But it's an art, because ultimately, just like I would have with my son, just like our children, you're going to confront anything that gets in the way of helping them become the best version of them. And that's your job with something that you love. And that's something I've never taken for granted with any job I've ever had, is fighting to confront anything that gets in the way of winning football. And I owe a lot to Coach Harbaugh. He hired me out of Georgia, took a shot on a college coordinator, trying to elevate Lamar in the offense. And I learned a ton. He is elite at messaging with a team, especially with an NFL team, and how you deal with players and how you confront anything that gets in the way of winning without being confrontational. To me, that's an art. That's an art. Thank you, Coach. And then the last thing, I told myself I wasn't going to cry, for God's sakes. I want to thank my mom and dad, no longer with us, my brothers, Tony and Ted, college roommates, drove up here to be here today, my father-in-law, Chuck, my son, Travis, proud of the man you've become, and his fiancée, Hannah, and my wife, Terry, been together 40 years, been married 34. Of course, she would say that's probably 6, because you're actually married to the game. So it's been an unbelievable journey. Thank you. I love you. Before I take any questions, I just want to. There's something that I've kind of always lived by as a position coach, as a coordinator, and I will as a head coach. And Jim and Dee and Jimmy, they cut a check with my name on it. And you know what they expect? A freaking kick-ass football team. That's what they expect. And you know what they want? They want to become a winning franchise that our fan base in our region is proud of. And that's all they've been about, is how you build a winning franchise that consistently competes for championships. And you know what? My job is to prove it every single day, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, let's go with some questions.
Hi, Todd. Welcome back. Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland.com, Cleveland Plain Dealer. Well, I guess I'll start right off the bat with the question probably everybody wants to know. Will you head into this offseason with Shedeur Sanders as your QB1? And if not, what is your approach to the whole quarterback situation as you move into your new job?
Well, I think like any position on the team, that's still to be determined. Am I excited about Shedeur? Am I excited about all the quarterbacks in the room? Am I excited to coach this football team? Absolutely. I can't wait for them to get back and for us to get started.
Joe Reedy, Associated Press. Todd, you mentioned in a Harbaugh Coaching Academy video your 2019 stint here. There was a lot of drama that the coaching staff couldn't control. Now that you're the head coach and learning from Kirby and Harbaugh, how do you manage that so that there isn't that drama?
Well, first off, I learned a lot in that 2019 season. I think you learn a lot. In fact, you learn a heck of a lot more when things aren't going well than when it is going well. And I learned a lot of things that I would have done different, and I think collectively would have done different. And I've seen it from a different angle, different point of view. But I'm ready to move forward with this team, the 2026 team.
Hey, Todd, Chris Easterling, Akron Beacon Journal. Just want to ask you, as a former quarterback, what is it you're specifically looking for in a quarterback? What is that trait? What are the traits that you feel like are critical for a successful quarterback, regardless of level?
Well, I'm just going to start with personality traits. I mean, when you talk about who's going to lead this team, who has the it factor, who has those characteristics that the team wants to follow and believes in them because the ball's in their hand every down. This game's going to come down to 2-minute situations, 4-minute situations where you've got to be able to execute at a high level. And we're just talking about some of the characteristics that you're looking for, let alone some of the physical traits that we'll get a chance to talk about later.
Hey, Todd, Scott Petrick from the Chronicle Telegram. You said it was a long time coming. When did you first start to think about being an NFL head coach? And did you feel you'd come close before? And then what does it feel like finally now?
Well, first off, I played at Knox College, and my dad were high school coaches, and my uncles were high school coaches, so that was just a dream. But I've been part of a team since I've been 5 years old, the Purple Pounders of Wheaton, Illinois, and it's the coolest thing ever to be part of a team. Let's just put it that way, okay? All I ever wanted to do was be part of a team and coach football. That's all. I mean, other than my mom making an Evel Knievel outfit or an astronaut, I was a football player every Halloween. That's all I ever dressed up as. You name it, that's what I dressed up as. When I was a kid, everybody else was getting trains, they were getting Army men, I was getting football games. My dad, every single, the little vibrating football game or talking football or rubber band football, every single game I ever got was about football. So all I ever wanted to do was coach and be part of a team. To me, it's not until you get into the NFL that you ever process like the opportunity could potentially be there to be a head coach in the NFL. Obviously, you have to probably reach the coordinator level to where that becomes a possibility. And there have been times before where I've been close. And I believe God put you at the right place at the right time. And that is now.
Dan Lobby, Cleveland.com. This kind of goes with Scott's question. Obviously, you've been saying it's a long time coming. Did you at any point think something like this wouldn't happen for you? And does that make this opportunity more meaningful for you?
For sure. I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I mean, let's be real honest here. Although I'll say this, that the version you're getting of me now is a hell of a lot better than it would have been 15, 20 years ago. So I'll at least say that, okay? But you get to the point where this is God's plan, which is fine. To be an offensive coordinator in the NFL or even coach in the NFL, I don't think people really realize there's 32 NFL teams. There's approximately 68, I don't even know how many more there are, Power 4 jobs. So whatever job we have, be it in the NFL or a Power 4 school, there's only 100 of you in the whole world. That's all there is. Within a 30-mile radius, there might be 100 doctors, 100 attorneys. You talk about a small group, talking about an elite group of men. So sure, there's a time where you think that's not going to happen. But very appreciative for the jobs that I've had and the players that I've been around and the coaches that have helped me get to where I'm at, because you absolutely cannot do it alone.
Jimmy Watkins, Cleveland.com. Todd, you're known as a straight shooter. That's what they say about you. How do you set that culture of accountability in a way that doesn't turn players off, so to speak?
Great question. Like I said before, I think you have to hold the players accountable for what they say their dreams and aspirations are. You have to find out what really do you want individually with your career, and then what do you want collectively as a team. And all you're doing is holding them to what their goals and aspirations are, like people did for me. I am who I am because my parents did that for me. They didn't do that to me, they did that for me. And that's the way I go about it, is I think everybody likes honesty till they don't like what's said to them honestly. And I'm the same way. I'm no different. I like being stroked in a good way. I'm no different. I don't like the other side of it. But that's how I've gotten a lot better. And the people that love you the most, they're going to be honest with you. But all it is finding out what are your dreams and aspirations, and then let's fight like hell to achieve them.
Ashley Bastock, Cleveland.com. Just wondering, being in the division, like what your impression as a coordinator was of this defense, and if you've had a chance to talk to Jim or anything yet.
Give me that again, the last part.
If you've had a chance to talk to Jim Schwartz. Or
I have. Okay, so with that, I've had a chance to talk with Jim. But it's been I apologize, to go against this defense 6 times over the last 3 years. Schematically, and more importantly, the players. Because ultimately, it's a player's game. That's what it is. It's our job as coaches to develop systems that allow your players to play fast. People talk about time speed. It's really not about time speed. It's about how they play on the field. And that's developing schemes, in my opinion, or systems, as Coach Harbaugh used to call it, with elegant simplicity, where they can function at a high level and play fast. And that's what you saw all the time with the guys that are here and the players that we have. But at the end of the day, I say this all the time. From an offense or defensive perspective, it starts with having elite players and then having an elite coaching staff with you. And then you can call the game freely because of that, because of the talent you have, and then because of the players, with the coaches that help it come to life. That's what makes a coordinator elite. It's not one individual person. And when we get ready for the Browns, when we used to get ready for the Browns, it'll be more fun and not have to worry about chipping 95 every down and distance, I can tell you that.
Terry Pluto, Point Dealer, Cleveland.com. 2 things you mentioned about the defense there. I'm just curious, where do you stand with Schwartz? Is he coming back, or what do you know so far?
Well, first of all, I think Jim is an outstanding defensive coordinator. I think we all would agree with that. But I think it's a little inappropriate for me to comment about that at this time.
And secondly, when you looked at the Browns from the outside, you just mentioned the defense, but just in general, you've been through some situations where it's been big turnarounds. I know Southern Miss, I think you were like 0-12 or whatever the first year, and that. What does it take to get, especially in the NFL, to get a turnaround situation going?
Perseverance, because it's hard. Winning's hard. It is hard, but the reward is unbelievable. That's what was fun about the thoughts of being the head coach here. If you like a challenge, let's go. Let's get this to where we're the standard, and the time is now. The timing is now. It's hard. It's perseverance, mental toughness, surrounding yourself with the right people, staffing, and then player-wise, that want to run into that smoke. Because not everybody wants to run in that smoke. Not everybody wants to look at it like it's 4th and 1 every day. And it is. It's 4th and 1 every day.
Nate Aldrich, Akron Beacon Journal. Clearly this means so much to you. So when you were at Georgia, you win the national championship back-to-back. You come back in the NFL. Did you come back to the league with the goal to become a head coach? Was that in your thinking?
100%. I called around to coaches in the NFL. I wanted to hear what it was like to be a head coach in the NFL. Because I tried to get a hold of Cliff Kingsbury and I couldn't. He was in like Tahiti or something. So that one, thank God I didn't get him because I might not have left Georgia. I got a hold of 3 or 4 other coaches, Kevin being one of them. And I asked them, do you enjoy being a head coach in the NFL? Do you enjoy everything that comes with it? It's not easy. It isn't. And to a man, all of them said they loved it. Be it Matt LaFleur, be it Kevin Stefanski, and others that I reached out to, because it was the only reason for me to leave Georgia. Well, why else would I leave Georgia? We're winning, going to have good players, the culture's already set. So that was one part of it. The other part was the challenge of where we could take the team out east offense and how we could elevate Lamar Jackson. And like I said, I owe a lot to the players that were there and the coaching staff that we put together to help us do that. But ultimately, that was my goal, was to come back, to put yourself in a position to one day sit in this chair, be one of the 32.
On the day that Jim Schwartz supposedly left the building and said he wasn't coming back, Myles Garrett had a reaction to that on Instagram where he showed, someone hanging their head. Denzel Ward has said, I really want Jim Schwartz back here. So my question to you is, I know you can't go into detail about your convo with Jim, but what can you say to these players, or how confident are you that these players are going to like the direction that you're going to be able to go on defense, and will you be able to maintain the incredibly high standards of the defense even if Jim doesn't come back?
Well, first off, my anticipation is we're not going to change the system. Very difficult to go against. I'm not planning on changing the system. We're built for the system that they're in currently. And I'm not going to get into staffing, because that's not at this time to get into that. But they can be rest assured that we're going to keep the same system. We're still going to let them attack. We're still going to let them play free. I can't see any other way. They're a big reason why I took this job. The defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz, but as I would hope he has for me. But I took it because of the players that are here, the ownership, Andrew Berry, and the ability to build this roster from the ground up on the offensive side. So, and I said this to the other guys. I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm going to say it. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. And when I was sliding a protection to the outside backers or Grant Delpit that were blitzing off the edge, I was sliding the protection of the players. And when I was worried about throwing to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell to the left, that's who I was worried about throwing at.
Todd, Tony Grossi, ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back. We're still
Thank
here.
you.
It's common knowledge now that Baltimore wanted to draft Shador. How much did you contribute to that decision at the time with Baltimore? Did you do any personal scouting of him, and what were your thoughts back then?
I think it'd be unfair for me to comment on another organization's process. I think that would just be unfair for me to go in depth of where we were at in the draft. Obviously, we had an affection, like a lot of teams, of Shador's skill set and what we thought he could become. But I really wouldn't want to go in depth of another team's process.
Hey, Todd. Daniel Yafusi, ESPN. A lot has been made about, the flexibility of your scheme and bending it to the talents of your players. But, from a macro view, when people envision a Cleveland Browns offense under Todd Monkin, what do you want them to see?
Well, that's a question I get asked all the time. Like, what system do you run? What is that? And the way I'll try to phrase it is to score any way possible. I don't care what it takes to score. It's about scoring points. I would hate to put some sort of any type of connotation as to what system that we are, other than playing to our players' strengths. I think one of the things that our staff, including myself, have been able to do is take advantage of what a player can do and not what they can't do. Every player in the NFL is elite, and they all have a trait, at least one trait, that allows them to, I don't want to say this, allows them to function, play at a high level. You just got to find what that is and not try to put a square peg in a round hole, taking advantage of what they do. And I think that's what we've been able to do consistently.
Hey, Todd, Justin Cooper, ESPN Cleveland. Hey, after being here in 2019 and the well-documented struggles after the last 2 years of this organization, what makes you confident that you're the guy that could lead this team and turn this franchise around?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because in the interview, there was a question that came up about strength as a head coach, and the other was where your gaps as a coach, where you need help, where you can use people to fill in those gaps. And the other was, how would you envision yourself being unsuccessful? That's not even in my vocabulary. It just isn't.
Todd, I got two quick ones for you. Are you going to call the plays?
Yes.
And then you've mentioned 95 a couple of times. How well did you know Miles in the year you were here, and how have you seen him evolve as a player since then?
Probably when I was here for that short period, I would say that I didn't know Miles very well, other than I loved his personality. I loved his charisma. I mean, always a smile on his face. At that time, I thought, holy cow, this guy runs like a wideout. You know, this guy looks like a skilled player. I mean, this guy is, elite. And he's always had it in him, but you can just see the last few years, that his evolution in terms of blocking schemes, how teams try to prevent him from getting to the quarterback, which opens up opportunities for others. I think his awareness of what teams are trying to do. I think they've done a great job of moving him around because that's important. That definitely gets into a coordinator's head in game planning of where he's located. You can see it with every team that plays against Miles.
Spencer German, Browns Roundtable and Locked On Browns. I saw there was a clip that you did or you had of talking about coaching Lamar and how you even felt like there were some things that you could have done better working with him. So I guess I just ask, what did you learn from coaching Lamar for the 3 years you were there, and what were some of the biggest challenges and things that you kind of bring with you now to this job?
Well, first off, I think I didn't get to where I'm at as a human being or a coach without owning and then fighting like hell to fixing. And I think that's important in a relationship. I think that's important in life. Is there's a certain amount of, a bar graph here, follow me, of that 10%, 15% complaining, self-preservation mode that we can all get in when things go bad or things are tough, which that's life. That's relationships, that's coaching. But the other 85 to 90% is owning your mistakes because we're human and then fighting like hell to fix them. And that's what I've been about. The moment you get, excuse me, you're about to go. The moment that graph elevates and the other one shrinks, you're not in the place you want to be at. First of all, Lamar and my relationship was awesome. We get along great. We didn't have the success last year for a number of reasons, and it doesn't matter. Fact. He was banged up. I would have loved to have seen it had he been healthy the whole year, but he was not. Doesn't matter. We didn't at times didn't give ourselves the best chance to be successful. Then you got to own that. That's part of what we do.
Todd, John Sable, Fox 8 here in Cleveland. I covered you for a few years there in Tampa when you were with the Buccaneers. You mentioned how you've grown since your stay here in 2019. How have you changed as a coach in your offensive philosophy since your last one of your first spots there in the NFL in Tampa when you had to develop a Jameis Winston and a team that was young and was trying to take that next step then?
I would say what's changed dramatically, and I'm going to talk a little bit philosophically more than I will about the team itself. What's really changed the last few years is situational football, the analytics that have changed. Conversion downs, the way you approach down and distance in the game, when you're going to take shots, when you know it's 4-down territory. More and more teams are going for it on 4th down. It's conversion downs, not just 3rd downs. I get a big kick out of defensive personnel when it's 4th and 2 and they stop them and they put their fist up like it's 4th down. No, we're not punting. Like teams don't punt anymore. Like you didn't really get them stopped yet. And I'm not making fun of that or making light of that. That's just how the game has changed in terms of your situational awareness of where you're putting yourself in position to keep the football and maximize your opportunity to score points. That's what's changed the most in the game, is the analytical part of what wins, what drives winning. And that's just not down and distance driven, that's tactical driven, across the board. Concepts, players, matchups, all of that. That's changed dramatically over the years. And that's one thing that getting back in the NFL is when understanding that the critical plays in a game that changed the game. When we ran that Mark Andrews fake sneak around the end here this year, that was something we'd oiled up for 3 weeks. That was a play off a play. That was Coach Harbaugh's idea. I don't care whose idea it is, where it comes from. If it helps us win, that's what's most important. But it wasn't just a fly by your seat of the pants, let's just see if it works this way. No, it came up in that situation at a critical time. And that's the difference when you're looking for margins that help you win close games, which is what the NFL is all about.
Todd, Cameron Justice, News 5 Cleveland. You talked about it a little bit, your approach in player development, but as that's an attribute that's been something that has been like top of mind for this hire and for you, what makes your approach to player development so unique and different, not just maybe in the young players and rookies that are going to be coming in, but maybe guys on the fringe, guys that are in that practice squad role looking to move up, and how do you approach that with depth as well?
Well, I think first off, as coaches, we could never forget that we have a job for our players, ever. That's why we have a job. And we're in the development business. I know that's just the start of it. I'm kind of repeating what you said. Because no one has a ready-made roster. You only have so many picks. That's what you have. So it starts with the top that believes in that, then the head coach, then down to the assistant coaches that we're going to coach everybody. At some point, they're all going to play for us. At some point, that's going to come up. And the best way to build their confidence is to spend time with them. That's the biggest thing. And to develop every aspect of their game, that's in the classroom and on the field. And everybody has a hand in this. Everybody from sports science to our coaching staff to what we've seen at the beginning in terms of their skill set and how that fits with what we want to do.
Todd, you were asked about the quarterbacks at the very beginning. How would you assess the current receivers and offensive line?
Well, it's kind of a work in progress. It's kind of hard right now because right now we're spending the majority of our time on building an elite staff. I mean, that's really what we're doing right now. There'll be time for me to really get a chance to assess the receiver room. Most of it's been from afar, and same with the offensive line, and how we're going to construct the roster moving forward, especially offensive.
Todd, two to close it out. Just what's your timeline as far as hoping to complete a coaching staff?
I don't control that. I mean, we're going to vet as many candidates as we can to get it right. When I was a head coach at Southern Miss, we lost a coach, and Pete Golding, who's now the head coach at Ole Miss, he was our 8th safety interview. Our 8th. Our D coordinator was absolutely livid of why it took so long. We didn't get the right hire. We hadn't found it yet. I think just like they all vetted for the head coaching position, don't get worn out. Make sure you get the right people at the start. And that's what we're going to do. So there is no timeline to get it right.
Just, you've been in the division a long time. What do you think it's going to be like competing against Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati this year? Baltimore and Pittsburgh, obviously, with new staffs. You were involved with plenty of shootouts with Cincinnati when you were with the Ravens.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Really exciting day.
All right. That is Browns head coach Todd Monkin's introductory press conference from earlier. And, you know, there's a lot obviously in there. Todd Monkin, a straight shooter, a passionate man, got emotional, and he is a football coach. He absolutely loves football. Been associated with football since he was 5 years old. You heard him talk about every gift he got was football related. By the way, you guys don't even know about this, young Gabriel, but there was that. I had that vibrating electric football game where you put the guys on there and then it would move them around. Zzz. We had hand-painted dudes. We had the Niners out there. Oh, it was a great game.
I heard him talk about that. I was like,
yeah, no, that's
idea.
before
Never
your time. Yeah,
heard
that's
of
before
that.
your time.
The little handheld, like electronic football things. My dad had those. I used to play with those as a kid.
This one was cool. You'd set up. It was much better for running plays, but for like a pass play, you'd have to kind of like flick it and hope that the ball hit the guy, and then it was a catch. It was very difficult to do. But the running plays were good. It was a fun game. But, you know, this is exciting. And J.W. Johnson, our owner, was here earlier today. to kick off the show in case you missed that. And we know that nothing can happen, obviously, until September. But there's going to be a no-nonsense approach to the Cleveland Browns that I think people in Cleveland are going to like. And I think that Todd Monkin is a very authentic, very passionate football coach. And I think that, we heard Jimmy talk afterwards saying, that accountability is a big thing. And Todd Monkin said, look, I'm going to shut down anything that gets in the way of winning football. And he wanted to do it without confrontation, but sometimes you've got to be confrontations. He said with his son, sometimes you have to be tough on him because you want him to be the best version of himself. And so I think that it's an exciting time. We got to get this staff all figured out. Obviously, so much on the defensive side remains, unclear. We did not get any answers one way or the other about Jim Schwartz, who's been an excellent defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. I think that, obviously everybody hopes that can work out. If it does not, I think there are obviously excellent options in-house and excellent options, outside as well to keep this thing running here. But I think that the Browns are obviously in a very good spot on that defensive side of the football, and hopefully everything can work out. Dollar Bill walking by the show right now. It's always a big moment. Very, very big. Dollar Bill. But that's where things are right now. Hour number 2 of this show, we're going to hear from the Browns play-by-play voice, my comrade in the booth, Andrew Siciliano. We're also going to hear from Brown staff writer Kelsey Russo, as well as do we have Jimmy at all, or do we just have AB?
We'll do Jimmy tomorrow. We got AB today.
All right, so we'll hear from Jimmy Haslam tomorrow. In case you guys missed that, we're going to hear from Browns general manager Andrew Berry as well. So Siciliano, Berry, Russo coming at you here. Hour number 2 on a big day here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome into hour number 2 of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. You can score big with Howard Hanna. That's right, the official real estate partner of the Cleveland Browns. As Northeast Ohio's #1 real estate provider, we're dedicated to helping you make the best move. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns to explore your winning options today. Todd Monkin introduced as the Browns head coach today here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea. Opening remarks from Andrew Barry. We heard that in the first hour. If you missed the first hour, you got a full replay of that press conference, but we kicked off the show live with Browns partner J.W. Johnson. The Big L Luminaire was here to talk about the process that led to Todd Monkin, what is next for the Browns, and obviously had a message to the fans as well. This is an organization that absolutely wants to get it right, and they believe Todd Monkin is that guy to lead this team. That 4th and 1 mentality we heard all about, which I think is, I love it. Love that. All right, it's time now to head out on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, an official sponsor of the Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland, as we are joined now by Browns play-by-play voice Andrew Siciliano, joining the show out in my hometown on his way to the airport. Mr. Siciliano, how are you?
I just walked by the Zagura statue outside the Moscone Center, the convention center.
The Moscone Center,
downtown
yes.
San Francisco. Let me tell you, man, they did a great job. I thought they really captured your essence.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Hopefully it was better than the one poster I appeared on for a Browns pregame. That's still the worst likeness of me ever, and I can't believe that that's been immortalized. Nonetheless, neither here nor there. How was everything out there at the Super Bowl? I know you were there for a couple of days. How was it kind of catching up with everybody from around the league, and what was the vibe there?
It was great, man. I wish I could stay a little bit longer, but the Olympic duties and all that calls. It's a great Super Bowl town. As you well know, it's spread out. This is really a 2 Super Bowl city, or they're a 2-city Super Bowl rather.
Yeah.
Both teams are staying down by the stadium in Santa Clara, which is like an hour down the 101 freeway. It's nowhere near downtown San Francisco.
Yep.
Downtown San Francisco is kind of the heart and the hub of everything, with the convention center and the media, the Pro Bowl games, the flag football thing went on tonight with Shador and Denzel and everybody. So it's 2 locales, but it's good. The sun is shining, the weather is great, and it should be great on a Sunday. No complaints, man.
Fantastic there. All right, let's talk about obviously the big news here, where the sun is not shining and snow is on the ground, built up into mountains in various parking lots around this region. Todd Monkin introduced as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns today. What did you think of that press conference, and just kind of what were the themes that you took away from the words that he shared today?
I was ready to run through a wall in my hotel room. I'll be honest with you. Actually, you do know that.
I do. You texted it. Yeah, that's right.
During the presser. I thought he won the presser. That means nothing come September. It means nothing at all. Nick Sirianni lost the presser badly. Liam Cohen lost the presser badly. So I'm not trying to suggest that winning a presser on what is today, February 3rd, in any way turns into victories come September. It doesn't. But I thought he hit the right tone. I thought he said all the right things. And while it might not have been the sexiest hire, I think fans saw who he is and what he's going to do for that building and do for that locker room and do for the entire organization. It's a Todd Monkin that you know well from 2019.
Yep.
One who tells it like it is, who is sarcastic. He's kind of like your fun uncle, but your fun uncle who is going to hold you accountable. And I think they need that. I loved it for what it's worth. It is a presser, but I loved it.
What were kind of the main themes that you took away, or were there any answers in particular, or anything that he said in particular that really struck you?
Well, I mean, there are 2 things. The one that's going around, obviously, is his message to the defense, in which he said, I worried about chipping Myles Garrett and not chipping Jim Schwartz. Read into that as you may. But at the same time, he called out Grant Delpit and Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell and all the other pieces on that defense. He wants to send a message to the defense that regardless of who is here, obviously things are up in the air, but we're not going to change. We're coming after you. And it was a B word he used to coach against that defense 6 times over the 3 years. I thought the other thing, and this is what I have heard from a lot of people. I've talked to quarterbacks, to players, to assistant coaches that have all been in a Todd Monkin building on both sides of the ball. Guys that played for him offensively and guys that were in the same building but on the defense, who not only love him, but always point out, and he pointed this out today, there is no Todd Monkin offense. Like, at Oklahoma State, we ran basically air raid with Brandon Weeden. He used the backs and the tight ends when he was at Georgia. He ran a bunch of RPOs with Lamar Jackson. There is no, this is my system, we're going to make it work, and you have to conform to my system. It's, I'm going to make lunch with everything in the fridge. I'm going to make chicken salad with what we have, and that is the beauty of, I think, his offensive mind, and it is something that has been pointed out to me countless times, not only last week, but here the last 48 hours of the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the things that I think is very exciting and very appealing about this is that you have, a great defense. We need work on offense. Todd Monkin has been successful in a variety of schemes. He's not married to any one scheme. He's just, as he said, I'm about scoring points. And I love I'm going to live every moment or every day like it's 4th and 1. And I love that because that is the reality is.
Yeah, I love that too.
That's what a lot of NFL games are now, right? It's who comes through on those money downs, those 4th and shorts that, you'd used to never even see teams go for, and now they go for multiple times a game, and those are big difference makers.
The other thing that kind of stood out is, and I'm going to paraphrase here, it's like, it's what do you want for yourself and what do you want for the team, and I'm here to help you get there.
Yeah,
not to carry you there, but to help guide you there. That really struck a note with me, not only necessarily in a football sense, which is the form there, but just in life in general. Like I can't take you there, but I can show you how to get there. That I think resonated. I think it'll resonate. I think if you're a Browns player and you heard the presser and maybe you weren't sure, but granted, all the players talk, right? Like if you're in the Browns locker room, you know somebody, one of your buddies has coached or rather played for Todd Monkin.
Yep.
Or had him in the building before.
Yep.
They all know and they all have all heard who he is, but I think that came through today.
Absolutely. And I like that. Look, what do you want your goals to be? What do you want to be? And I'm going to hold you accountable because I know what it takes to help you get there. I'm going to hold you accountable to that standard. And I think that's, we heard Jimmy say that in his presser afterwards, that accountability is a big thing. And Todd Monkin certainly seems like a guy that is going to hold people accountable, which I think is good. I like the way that he phrased it. Anything that gets in the way of winning football, he's not about. He's not going to tolerate that.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, you got to get rid of those things, and I think that's important.
I was texting with Ryan Fitzpatrick last week, and he had him obviously in Tampa. He's like, "You made me better. He's that smart. He's smart. He's tough. He made me better." And they were chucking the ball 40, 50 times a game.
Yep.
It wasn't necessarily what we saw in Baltimore. So he could change the system depending on what he has to work with. He obviously got the Shador question. I wouldn't read too much into it, where he said, he's one of the quarterbacks in the building. No one is going to come out and endorse a quarterback today. Like Ian Cunningham, who is the new GM there with Kevin in Atlanta. Ian Cunningham was asked today because he had his presser right before Todd got on the podium and asked about Michael Penix, and he would not come out and stamp Michael Penix, nor would Matt Ryan. You got to play it right down. You got to be vague this time of the year. Shador's going to be one of the quarterbacks. He's going to be competing. But I wouldn't read too much into anything that was said about personnel today, other than Myles Garrett and everyone on the defensive side that he name checked.
Well, I mean, look, the reality is, I think when you look at our quarterback room, you've seen some good things with all three guys that are currently on this roster. Deshaun obviously has been the most productive in the National Football League, but we have not seen him in quite some time. And obviously his days of being really, really productive were with the Houston Texans, and that was in 2020. Shador, some good, some bad. But there certainly, I don't think, is anybody that right now you're just saying, okay, this is it. We know who our starter is. And so I think you're going to have a competition. And my guess is, from Todd, and when I talked with him one-on-one, I think he certainly is open to bringing in more quarterbacks.
Absolutely. My comment there was more along the lines of everything with Shador. We know this, and it's not his fault. There are always so many clickbait headlines. Oh, he says he's eager to work with Shador. It might be one headline. The other headline is Todd Monkin fails to commit to Shador. I'm just reminding people there is nothing to be gleaned from quarterback conversation there from the podium other than, hey, he likes him. And he's ready to work with them, and there are going to be other quarterbacks in the room.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but Shador Sanders was actually on Up and Adams with Kay Adams when this happened, like as Todd Monken's press conference was happening.
You know that he was on. No, what happened? I missed that. What
So he was on, and basically Todd said, answered that initial question from Mary Kay about Shedeur, and basically that, he's excited to work with everybody, but he's not, handing anybody the starting job. He didn't say that, but he didn't say anybody was getting it. And Shedeur said that's exactly what's expected. He's got to come in here, and his role's to be determined.
Absolutely.
He's got to come in and work, which has been cool.
Yeah, I love that about Shedeur as well.
Yeah. He said,
I really do love that about Shedeur. He has repeatedly said, nothing's going to be handed to me. I'm going to work my tail off. I had someone ask me yesterday, well, why was he there when Monken was in the building last week? I'm like, because he's there working.
He's there working, and he wanted to talk to his coach, and I think that's very, very smart by Shedeur Sanders.
Absolutely.
He went on to say, quote,
absolutely.
Whenever I feel like me, then everything works out. I've proven to myself I'm able to dominate the league. And then he also was talking about Myles Garrett, said he always want to gain his respect. Do I feel like I accomplished that? I don't know, but it's just going to continue to make me work harder. So I think Shedeur handled that very well, said all the right things, and, he is a guy that is very, very talented and certainly can throw the ball down the field with great accuracy. And one of the things that I think is kind of fun about this offseason, and you're talking to a guy who absolutely loves offensive football, is that you really get to go shopping, right? We have draft picks. We got 10 picks. We got two ones. You get to go shopping on that offense. And now Todd Monkin, I think, is going to have a lot of input on what exactly it is that he wants in his players on this offense. They're going to get that staff finished up on this offensive side, the position coaches, all of that's still outstanding, and get those announcements soon. But I'm excited about the opportunity to add a lot of investment on that side of the football and what that looks like. Are you excited about that? Because to me, that's like kind of the story of the offseason. I mean, clearly they've stated it. That's what it's going to be.
Let's not forget, you got two first-round picks.
Yep.
And I know we all had hoped that Jaguars pick was better than 24, but I'll gladly take another pick in the first round at 24. Because
of course.
That's a starter right there. And if it's on offense or defense, I don't care. Obviously, you and I both think or would prefer that to be offense. Matter of fact, you would prefer an offense-only draft.
Yeah,
I know you
sure.
are enough. Weapons.
You got it.
Weapons. But, my friend many times tweeted after the Todd Monkin hire, I think something along the lines of, I'm glad I have Harold Schmannon in my legacy league.
Oh, yes.
They're going to find a way to get him the football. By the way, Tommy Reese found him a way. Kevin did as well to get Harold Schmannon the football last year.
Yes.
So it's not as if he was lacking targets, but there are weapons there. There are, I want to see Isaiah Bond on the line. That was a frustrating rookie season for him. We saw flashes near the end of the year, certainly.
Still over 18 yards a catch, for sure.
We're excited to see as early as week 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was up week 1. You didn't see it very often. So there is something to build on. But, Monken kind of deflected the question about the receiver room today, understandably. But you got to add to that room. I'm excited for the young pieces in the backfield. That includes Raheem Sanders.
Yep.
I don't know if he's going to be around, but I thought that was a nice find. He scored the touchdown week 1. He made some plays in December after Quinshawn got hurt. So I think you have some weapons there. But the key thing is the offensive line. You only have 3 starters back, 2 of whom are coming off of injuries. Or not 3 starters, 3 players back.
3 players, yeah.
2 of whom, 3 players back. All 3 have starting experience, but Zach Sinner hasn't started since Wyatt's early injury in September of 24. So they all have something to prove in their own ways. You need more pieces. You need bodies.
A lot there on that offensive line, and that's going to be a big part of this. That's going to be a big part of this offseason. And that's kind of that's not necessarily the sexy shopping on offense as the skill position guys are, the guys who score the football, but you absolutely need to address that line. I mean, we went through it. Was that yesterday's show where we did the offense and defense? There maybe we typically keep 24 on offense, 26 on defense. The defense is they're probably 6 to 8 spots up for grabs, and that's up for grabs. But you could fill out pretty much a defense right now if you wanted to. Whereas on the offensive side of the ball, it's 10 to 14 guys that are going to be new. 10 to 14 out of 24.
Yeah.
So it's
a lot.
Yeah, it is going to be. There will be a great deal of turnover, obviously, on that side of the football. All right, we'll get you out of here on this one.
Can I put an idea in your head?
Please.
Hold on, let me put an idea in your head.
I like it.
Okay.
I'm writing it down.
And this is an off-season idea, okay? The draft is April 23rd. Still got a ways to go.
Okay.
We'll be together again at the Combine.
Can't wait.
Okay, in a couple of weeks. But I just need you to get this into your head. I want you to go back to Jim, not John, Jim Harbaugh's introductory comments when he was named head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers of Los Angeles.
Okay.
And he said, offensive linemen are weapons. Okay?
Yeah.
You can Google it. He said it. I just want you, maybe on the ride home today, and 2 hands on the wheel, please be safe. I want you to just allow your mind to go there, that offensive linemen are weapons. Thank you.
I appreciate that. The Los Angeles Chargers of Los Angeles, right there. What an introductory press conference offensive lineman. Ironically, though, with that statement, is their Mother Hubbard, the cupboard was bare on their offensive line.
Well, so's ours.
Well, so's ours, but I'm
I
just
know this year they were all injured.
Yeah.
They went out and they drafted Zion Johnson. They drafted Alt.
Alt,
right?
Joe
So they
Alt.
went out,
Yeah.
and they said, I thought you needed weapons. He goes, offensive linemen are weapons.
Interesting. I'm going to watch that one, and then I'm going to watch the one where the Bengals were talking about the decision between Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell, and they went with a traditional weapon.
And they went with Jamar Chase. It worked out for both teams, by the way.
Yeah, that was that's called a win-win. There's not a bad outcome in that one.
Yes,
to
worked
be
out for
sure.
both teams.
Yes, absolutely. Andrew, this has worked out for all of us as well. Appreciate the time. Safe travels today as you go from one paradise to another.
You're the greatest. I miss you.
I miss
And
you
Gibby.
too, brother. Yes. Gibbe's in Florida. He's fine. Don't worry about Gibbe. Bo right now is the one who
that's
needs
right,
your
I
love.
forgot.
He's
He's that way.
convalescing.
Okay, I miss Bo and young Gabriel.
Young Gabriel. Yes. Young Gabriel and the great Dr. J. We all miss,
I miss you
as well.
too, Andrew.
Yes. Look at him.
And Jordan. And Jordan.
Yes.
I didn't. Not that I didn't know Jordan wasn't there.
But he is
Actually, I
yeah.
didn't know Jordan. Yeah. Okay,
By the
and
way,
Jordan,
you know how Gibbe
obviously.
has the head honcho nameplate over by his desk? Young Gabriel's
Yes.
taking it,
Uh-huh.
and he's the captain now.
Good.
Good. Exactly.
Good. He is
Perfect.
the captain now.
And there it is.
Yes.
We'll go on that note. That's
Uh-huh.
perfect
And
one-word
just
answer. Good.
Don't be the Tom Hanks in that scene, Nathan.
No, not me.
Like,
No,
get home safely.
that's Gibbe, unfortunately.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, the great Andrew Siciliano, joining us on Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet. When we come back, we're going to hear from the general manager and executive vice president of your Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry. It's coming up next here on Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet. Zach Bryan is bringing his With Heaven On World Tour to Huntington Bank Field on May 9th. Hear all of his classics and witness his new album live in Cleveland. Don't miss out on an incredible night of country hits. Get tickets now by visiting huntingtonbankfield.com/Zach Bryan. All right, back to the podium we go, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here's Browns General Manager, Executive Vice President Andrew Berry's press conference following the introduction of head coach Todd Monkin.
Hey gang, how we doing? I don't have an opener for you, so I'll let you guys just
Andrew, what's been made of the process? And can you expand a little bit more on it maybe, and just the uniqueness of it compared to the way other organizations do it?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the way that other organizations do it, Chris. I guess when we look at the head coaching position, like it's a lot like if you were in the business world, you're hiring a CEO or a COO, right? This is a position that, across the league you may spend, call it 50 to 100 million on the hire, plus another 75 million on their staff, plus the impact that they have on the organization. And there has to be a level of thoughtfulness when you're going through that hiring process. So the way that we looked at it is okay, generally speaking, you have a 4-week period to make really a monumental hire for the organization, something that can alter your path, alter your strategic direction in a very positive way, or if you make the wrong hire, a very negative way. And so the way we went through the process is, one, we wanted to define, okay, what are we asking this individual to do in this phase of our team's life cycle? 2, what are the characteristics and attributes that we're seeking that would allow them to be successful? And then 3, how are we actually going to measure that? And the way we looked at it was, number one, it's performance, right? It's a performance-based business. We want someone with a good track record. We want to know what it was like working with these individuals from the people who have been with them over a long period of time. And then we also wanted to test their critical thinking skills in role-specific areas. And that's what the interview process was. That's what the the assessments were, and the work sample. So it was simple like that. That guided our interviews. I know a lot of teams, they may do it the flip way, where they'll interview to funnel. We did a lot of research on the front end to guide who we would actually even submit a slip for, and then use additional parts of the process, the interview process, to ultimately arrive at a result.
Andrew, was Todd someone that shocked you, or was someone that was always, for you, going to be right in the thick of things towards the end of it?
No, the way we went through is for us to get to the point where we felt comfortable submitting a notification form. They're called notification forms. You submit to the team, you submit to the league. We had done a lot of research on the front end to make sure that they matched what we needed and what we were looking for in the head coaching position. So it wasn't just okay, let's just submit for a number of different coaches and kind of go scattershot. We had done the homework on probably starting 50 coaches, then we funneled it to 23, and then ultimately the 8 external candidates that we submitted for before we even got to that point.
Andrew, I got 2 Jim questions. Number one, is there still a chance that he can come back as defensive coordinator?
Yeah, Scott, I'd say again, I'd repeat what Todd said, where we have a ton of respect for Jim and everything like that. There will be a time for that, but this is Todd's day.
Is the fact, Andrew, that as you've acknowledged, the offense needs the most work. How did that affect your coaching search?
I'd say this, Jeff. It affected from the standpoint that for every candidate, you want to hear their vision or their plan for the offense, but that doesn't mean that you're searching for a coach with an offensive background. There are plenty of defensive coaches or kicking game coaches that are very thoughtful in all 3 phases of the ball and very knowledgeable. Look, you can look at the Super Bowl, 2 of the most high-powered offenses in the sport. Those teams, they're led by defensive coaches, and Mike Vrabel and Mike McDonald. And so I know when people hear offense, they assume, okay, well, they're just going for an offense coordinator. That wasn't necessarily the case. We met with a number of outstanding defensive coaches throughout this process, but we felt Todd was the best fit for us.
You've said the next coach would have a large say-so or a big say-so in the quarterback situation. Is that more input than the last head coach had?
Yeah, Tony, I'd say that we've always, I don't know an organization that wouldn't have their head coach have input into the quarterback situation, so I wouldn't say that there's anything fundamentally different from that perspective.
Andrew,
yeah.
how optimistic are you that once Todd has an opportunity to dig into what he has in the quarterback room that you have right now, that he will find what he's looking for right there in your quarterback room Or do you think there's a chance that he might want to look in the draft or free agency or the trade market?
You know, Mary Kay, I think for us, I think I've mentioned it to at least all of you here, that we go into each offseason as if we have an expansion team. So, and particularly at quarterback, where it's the most important position in sports, we'll always do resource in terms of like what opportunities are available on the veteran market and in the draft market. You know, we've got to hire a staff first. After that, we'll certainly, you know, pick up the internal assessments with, you know, with our own roster. But quarterback, no different than another number of other positions. You know, we'll spend a lot of time assessing what options are out there.
Andrew, I'll go. Okay, I'm over it.
Age before beauty.
She does great. You mentioned, sort of almost like in passing, that you thought you probably had maybe the youngest roster in the league. Where does that come from? Is that the plan, or?
That's just where we're projecting based on the amount of draft resources we have, and then probably just anticipated activity in free agency. That combined with having a very young defense, we would anticipate that we'd be a very young team. We're not necessarily going to be at a phase where we're going to sign, you know, a bunch of mid-30s veterans to like put us over the top, so to speak. That doesn't mean that we're not going to participate in free agency or participate with veteran players, but the reality of having, you know, 10 selections, 8 that are in the top 150, and already a very young defense, and with pretty heavy investment on offense, in most worlds, we're probably going to be one of the younger teams in the league.
I know a few weeks ago when I asked you about the defensive system, and you said you don't believe your scheme specific, but obviously you like the way you guys play.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd talked about, you know, anticipating that scheme stays the same regardless of what happens with Jim. Just how important was that? And I guess, are you guys satisfied with that outcome with that side of the ball?
Well, we're certainly satisfied with the outcome, you know, and part of the reason is because we hired Todd. But the second part I'd say is like in terms of the flexibility with the defensive system, we did talk to a number of coaches that we thought very highly of that, you know, would have had some alterations with it. That was not necessarily a non-starter for us. You know, we were looking for the person who best fit the characteristics we were looking for in this phase of the team. But yeah, like we think they play the style particularly well.
Andrew, 2 questions about 2019. Todd had mentioned you being a point of contact for him. What kind of relationship did that lead to? And then the second question is, I know you went to Philly, but in the interview process, what did he convey to you about his familiarity with the franchise and what he learned that year?
You know, so that's a great question, Nate, because the interesting part is when we were supporting Freddie with building out his initial staff, he's right, I was the point of contact. So we talked about, you know, things during the interview process, supported him to get up and running, and then I think maybe like a week later I had gone to Philadelphia. Well, the flip side is when I was in the interview process for the general manager's position here, I called him and I was like, okay, like essentially, hey, what happened in 2019? You know, obviously you can infer from the outside, but you know there are a lot of good people, there are a lot of good players there. I'm surprised the season went as it, and he was very honest and forthright. And so we always like kept in contact. I can't say that like, you know, we were incredibly close throughout that time, but it was always a bunch of, you know, it was really always a lot of mutual respect. You know, texted him after they won the national championship in Georgia. We always talked and texted like throughout the season when he's with the Ravens. Just always had a lot of respect for him. So I'm super pumped to have the chance to be able to work with him.
So I know somebody.
Let me go someone who hasn't asked a question. I'm going to go Daniel first because I like him better than you, Daryl. So I'm just.
It was reported that like, one of the questions, one of the testing questions or assessment questions was, you know, what is your plan or how would you develop Shador standards? I guess just why was it important to include that question? Is that maybe indicative of the organization's, you know, hopes for him?
So when we talk about player development, one of the things that we wanted to get out or get a feel for with all the candidates was less about the specific player, but more about like the player archetype, so to speak. So Shador, right, is naturally that's like an example of like a young quarterback, and see what thoughts candidates had on that. You know, we also had another young player on defense, and we also had a position coach as part of that because we wanted to see how the head coaching candidates thought about those things globally, given everything that's asked for them in that seat. Daryl, you're good.
Offensively, obviously, there's a lot of work that you have to do. You talked about, hey, you can't fill every hole in one off season. Jimmy just, mentioned, hey, he doesn't expect the team's going to be more fun to watch this year, win at least more games than he did last year. So what's that balance and timetable look like from your perspective as you go to work this offseason, trying to put that offense together with Todd?
Yeah, Daryl, I think honestly, you just try and make the best decisions as they become presented to you. I think it's as simple as that. I think we believe in being very process-oriented, and feeling if we have good process, it'll lead to good results. Todd's obviously very flexible in terms of what has been built for him and how successful he's been. But a big part of it does come maybe a little bit back to Mary Kay's question. I know she was talking about it more with quarterbacks, but just player availability in the marketplace. Like what types of players, what styles of players, and at what positions are they available? I guess like maybe by way of example, if we were sitting here last year and, you would have said, hey, look, you're going to take a running back and an off-the-ball linebacker in the early second round. Said, okay, that's probably unlikely based on the player markets, that type of thing. But that's what we did because we felt like, Carson and Quinshawn made the most sense, in that moment, and they could be long-term, fixtures on the roster. So I'd like to, look, for even my own sake, I'd like to have a little bit more clarity there, but the reality of it is we have a lot of work to do before we get to. All right, thank you.
All right, that's Browns general manager Andrew Berry after the introductory press conference today. He spoke with reporters. Jimmy Haslam, Browns owner, did as well, and we will hear that from Jimmy Haslam tomorrow on tomorrow's edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. When we come back, Browns staff writer Kelsey Russo will join the show. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. All right, welcome back to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly. As you can see, we are joined by Browns staff writer Kelsey Russo. What's up, Kelsey?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to be back on.
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. How have the first 30 days of the 120 days treated you?
They've been good. They've been busy, following the whole coaching search and, keeping track of everything. But nice to have Todd Monkin in the building and get to hear from him, AB, Jimmy Haslam, and really get to see the vision of where this is going in this, next part of the 120 days.
So for you, when they're going through this stuff, you get to write all the articles about every candidate and all of those things. So what was that kind of like going through that for your first coaching search?
Yeah, it was great. It was cool to be able to research and get to know these guys through just reading about them and really diving into their coaching history. So the teams they were currently on,
Sure.
the things that they've done in their past, et cetera, and really just seeing who they are as a coach was really interesting to just read about and everything. So yeah, I put together a couple articles on each guy so fans could also get to know them and really see who we were bringing into the building as a potential head coach option and really kind of excite, fans about who is going to step into this role. And so particularly with Todd, I really dove into his history with, the Ravens
Sure.
at Georgia when he was an offensive coordinator, which he was there right after I graduated. So that was really cool to really just dive back into, but also really to look back on how he got started and
coaching for 37 years.
Yes.
37
Yeah. A long
years.
time.
Yeah.
And really just all of his stops along the way and how he got to where he was and really just seeing the things that people were talking about with him of just his offensive mind and how he's built really strong run games in his offenses and why that's been important and how he adapts his offenses to who he has on the roster, which
For
is
sure.
really impressive. And
Yeah.
so that was really neat to be able to learn about his evolution as a coach, as well as, in these different roles of college back to the, to the NFL, to college again, and just sort of all over the place.
So for you in your role where you are the one who actually, lets everybody know and writes the articles of when the news actually breaks, like, do you have to prepare? We had 3 finalists. Do you have to prepare something for all 3 and then see what it is?
Oh yeah, I had things prepped for all 3 just in case, so we were ready to go as soon as we were allowed to announce it. So so I had
wow.
3 different versions. So 2 of those will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how that rolls, of just being able to roll when we get the official word that yes, we can announce it, and it's been looked at and we are in a good spot. So
like for you, when they say, okay, or it's going to be Todd and you got to get everything ready to go with that, what are your steps after that point?
So I kind of try to consolidate, everything I've written into one big collective piece while also, making sure it's taking the next step forward. So it's not just a repetitive
Sure.
of what I already wrote, but, finding a way to excite fans even more so of, okay, we have a decision. This
Yeah.
is our head coach. Here is who he is as
Yeah.
a person, as a coach, and here's everything you need to know about him. And so I kind of compile all that together. It was great. We got a couple of quotes from Andrew Barry,
Yep,
from the
ownership.
Haslams.
Yep.
And so that was great to also be able to add their voice into the piece so fans could also, get excited about, okay, this is what ownership thinks. This is what Andrew Barry thinks about Todd, and I can get on board behind this hire and be excited. So, kind of putting all of those pieces together, and I think, putting it out as, sort of the announcement of this is our head coach.
And then today he was announced publicly here at the Cross Country Mortgage campus. Look at your picture right there.
Thank you. Wow,
Same
that's great.
scarf.
Yeah, same scarf.
Same scarf.
It's freezing.
But you got a
so,
football. Yeah, same scarf, but you got the football there. What did you think of Todd's press conference?
I loved it. I think we saw the authenticity and a genuineness to it that I think is really great to see from him, especially in that first, kind of public setting in front of media, in front of ownership, et cetera, in this announcement. And I loved that. I thought, seeing the emotional side, getting choked up about, this stepping into this role and thanking the people that have been a part of his life was really cool to see, and then the funny remarks and just the different, you saw his personality, and I think that's great. I also loved when he talked about the accountability aspect of holding players accountable and how to go about that. I think, us seeing that as, media people, but from the outside, knowing that's how he will approach it when he's in the locker room with his players, I think will be a testament for the season of how these guys react and respond to that accountability. So I thought it was really eye-opening, really just to hear his thinking about it, his excitement to be here, and really stepping into this role and knowing that he has the background and the coaching history to do so and step into this role.
Yeah, I thought it was cool when he talked about being at Kirby Smart, who won 2 national championships while he was there, and then with John Harbaugh, who's won a Super Bowl, that they got to the same point but in very different ways.
Yes.
And that I think that one of the things in my interview with him that he talked about is that it just made him feel very comfortable that you got to be yourself. The other thing, when you get a guy who's about to turn 60, which he is in 2 days, you're going to get him. You know what I mean? He is, at that point, you are fully formed. He is, as they say, can't teach an old dog new tricks. He is a fully formed person, and I like that. I think that he's going to be very authentic and true to who he is, and I think you have to be in this role.
Absolutely. And I think these young guys, especially as, Andrew talked about, they're going to be a young roster. You need somebody who's going to be authentically themselves, because if that's what you're asking for your players, both on the field but also off the field, you also have to show that same authenticity. And I think him being who he is will be something that these players, both, young and, veteran players, can rally around and really buy into what he's building offensively and defensively and on special teams. But, the collective culture for the team, if it's built on that authenticity, I think is going to be a really good thing moving forward.
The Browns have just posted some pictures of Todd Monkin, the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and a pen to paper, it's officially official. So we've got those pictures there of Todd suited up today. I thought looked very sharp today.
Yes.
It looked very sharp out there. So for you, as we go through we got 90 days left in this very important 120. What's kind of on the horizon for you from a content standpoint? I know we got the staff announcements that have got to come when those are taken care of, and that was kind of priority one we heard Todd talk about. We got the combine coming up, then we got free agency, then we got the draft. I mean, it's
go, go, go.
People always say, it's the off season, so are you so relaxing? I'm like, there's no off season.
No, there is no off season. Yeah, I know that. So now we'll go through this coaching part of it, round out the staff, and then kind of at the same time diving into the combine and preparing for that. And so being ready for, those media interviews and seeing who's going to be kind of talked about in those conversations. And then we'll dive right in, like you said, to free agency, continue preparation for the draft. So kind of happen simultaneously. There will be annual league meetings also in there at the end of March, which I'll go to. And so that's a really good time as in between the combine and the draft in post free agency to see where the team is at. So we get to talk to AB, talk to ownership, and kind of get an idea of this is where we're at right now and this is what's to come, in the next month or so. So there's kind of always something. There will be schedule release in May, so there's that as well. So it's
maybe Paris. That's what they're saying
maybe
across the
Paris.
pond. That would be pretty great. I hope they're right. I hope those people are correct. Rumors at this point, obviously, we don't know anything. And the league has said that the Saints are indeed playing in Paris, the first ever game in Paris, and that there are flyers. I don't know if you know this, but there are flyers in Paris that have us on them. So Gibbe's daughter's over there, and she's all excited. She's like, "Is this really happening?" So we don't know. We hope so.
Wow.
I'd love to go to.
I would love to go to Paris.
That'd be fantastic. 1 year after London, going to Paris. All right, Kelsey, thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, read all of her great stuff. ClevelandBrowns.com, the Browns mobile app. Anything else we should be plugging?
No, just keep it out. I mean, there'll be lots of content the next few days, and about the coaching search and everything, or continued coaching hires and everything, and about this. And it'll be on ClevelandBrowns.com.
There you go. ClevelandBrowns.com. Staff writer Kelsey Russo joining us. We'll be back wrapping things up here. Cleveland Browns Daily presented by Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, wrapping it up here. A historic day in Berea at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. Todd Monkin officially introduced as the next head coach of your Cleveland Browns. We're going to get to work on that staff. I know there have been a lot of rumors out there that we have talked about in terms of people being added on the offensive side of the ball, so we'll get that. We still need a special teams coordinator. Obviously, as Bubba Ventrone has gone to the LA Rams, and then figure out what's going on the defensive side, which we got a lot of great position coaches on that side that I know the Browns very much want to keep here, and see how that all shakes out with Jim Schwartz. So those are kind of the things to be watching for as this week goes on, young Gabriel. Tomorrow we're going to have Jimmy Haslam's comments on the program, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
All right, so we've got that, and then let's talk about when are we going to do is Guess the Lines tomorrow, which is just Guess the Line. It's one. I better name it.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. I want to know about what's going on with the over-unders because I know that was a pretty good week for me.
I also want to know what's going on with the over-unders.
It was a good week. I think it's over.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, we've taken Give A down, which will be good. So hopefully Bo will be back with us tomorrow. Anything else on the show that lined up that we want to let people know?
2 minutes.
I mean, we'll preview the Super Bowl. We'll have some guests to be.
We haven't really talked about it. I feel like the Super Bowl, it's been not a.
Yeah, you touched on it yesterday.
It doesn't have a lot of hype.
No hype around this Super Bowl. I don't know why. It's probably because the Patriots. People are sick of seeing the Patriots win, and the Seahawks. They're not the Seahawks of old. They're not the Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Doug Baldwin Seahawks. I mean, you get JSN. He's a fun player to watch, but. I don't know. Like Sam Darnold? Is that really moving the needle for a Super Bowl? Probably not.
No, I just think if it was like Rams-Bills, it would be
right, because there's legacies
massive
on the line then. You're looking at
I think
Stafford.
There's a little bit of a legacy for Sam Darnold. You think about Sam Darnold being in a draft with the people that he was in a draft with.
It's true.
And he's the first one to play in a Super Bowl. And he is potentially the first one to win a Super Bowl when you've got 3 MVPs between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
That is pretty nuts when you frame it that way.
Yeah. So,
I
think there's definitely
going on in sports right now too. Like that's probably why too. There's a lot going on in sports.
Yeah, you got the Olympics coming up.
You got the NBA trade deadline, which seems like could get interesting for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is always exciting.
James Harden.
We've got the flag football game tonight for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So see Shador, Joe Flacco slinging the pill around. That's always fun.
2 Pro Bowl QBs, baby.
30.
Yeah, a couple of Browns. The one who started the season, the one who ended the season. Both Pro Bowlers for the Cleveland Browns.
The bookends.
All right. We want to thank J.W. Johnson for stopping by. Thanks, Kelsey Russo. Thanks, Andrew Siciliano as well. Welcome, Todd Monkin. The Todd Monkin era officially beginning here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. And you've been listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland.